show
on here, but
with my
you
guest,
will not be on
Alex
camera. I'm going to have to
Smith,
record it.
also known
You're being
as
heard. You're being
Dr.
heard.
Jonathan Royle,
Okay.
PhD. And before we go any further, I'd like to quickly
go ahead. I'm going to
welcome
record it.
new
Go
listener
ahead, please.
Gloria Green, and also Nancy always listens, and Mandy, and Tahiti T. But Jonathan Royle, PhD, and that is a genuine PhD, isn't it?
In my world, there's no such thing. It's not worth the paper it's printed on, but then again, neither is anybody's. So that's an entirely different debate, and probably has just upset everyone who's spent years and years to be indoctrinated by the education system, where all they've really learnt is how to obey other people and pass exams. Because frankly, I don't care what the subject is, you learn way more, or at least you do if you get out there in the field of life and interact with human beings. You learn way more actually doing things in the real world than any textbook or training video or course or educational system will ever teach you.
I agree with that. Absolutely.
So yeah, bits of paper, I've got hundreds of them, but you know, the truth is I don't believe that any of the bits of paper I've got, whether it be one issued by a genuine school or university, and I use the term genuine very loosely, that is all just a matter of perception. We are led to believe by the powers that be, governments and politicians and those people in power, that we have to go to these accredited schools because they approve them. But why have they approved them? People need to ask more questions in life, really. They've approved them because what those places teach fits the bigger agenda of what the people in power want people to believe and think. And that's why they will go heavily down on people who think outside the box, do their own thing, speak out against the system. We were speaking before we came on air, and I know you've certainly had experience of speaking against conventional, so-called conventional psychiatry and whatnot, haven't you, Keith?
Yes. Well, I thought you were going to use the word wisdom, but I sometimes think that the people that make the box don't seem to be that wise. But yourself and myself, I am wiser, and I haven't always been wise, and so I would like to give you a public apology, because there was a time when I wasn't very wise, because I followed the thinking of other people about you before I knew the facts. So I would like to, and you know what I'm talking about, so I would like to apologize to you for that publicly.
Thank you very much for that, Keith. It means a lot, but by the same token, it's not wishing to sound flippant, I don't blame you in the slightest for getting swept along with the rumours, backstabbing and social, I'll even go as far as saying social engineering of the establishment that gives this misleading picture to the mass populace that I'm some kind of Beelzebub of the mind therapy world. I think, as you know now, it's largely more likely the likes of, if I say the name Rupert Murdoch, most people should recognise that name as him being a very powerful media mogul who owns a lot of television stations, radio stations and print media worldwide. And he has on numerous occasions published things that were untrue about me for his own profit and gain. And long story cut short, that's currently going through the British legal system to get him to apologise, because we have the proof that he'd lied. Unfortunately, for the mass populace who see certain things in newspapers, that they tend to believe. It's a sad saying that, you know, people say, don't believe everything you read in newspapers. But even when you consciously say to yourself, I know that people have got an agenda, sadly, a lot of people are living life on autopilot, like sleepwalkers, like zombies. And they're taking in information from so many different sources, the television, newspapers, here, there and everywhere, that some of it, even if consciously they go, I'm not going to believe that, some of it gets past the critical faculty of the brain, our gatekeeper, if you like, and it gets into the unconscious, and it does have an effect on people. And that's what the people in power want. They want people to be sponges, if you like, that take in the agenda that they give out. And that's why we have,
Yes.
unfortunately, so much conflict in the world.
So now I must take the audience back to the beginning now, because we don't actually know much about you. So very quickly for the audience, we do actually have on well, you're not actually on screen, I don't think, because Rula couldn't get you up.
Yeah.
But Jonathan is a very famous person. He's got a big and varied and rich history. So perhaps if you could take us back to the beginning and tell us your humble beginnings when you started off as a Flap the Clown in 1978, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was indeed. So yeah, I mean the short long version, as short as it can be. I was born on August the 13th, 1975. And my mum was doing a sharp shooting, whip cracking, lasso rope spinning type cowgirl act in the circus. And my dad was doing circus clowning, but also what they call a yogi act. So stuff like fire eating and lying on a bed of nails and all that weird Eastern fakir type thing. So I was brought into a world of illusion. Now, I believe every human being's brought into a world of illusion, but that's more the case of the programming of the powers that be wanting the mass populace to believe certain things. But the world of illusion I was born into was trickery, which started from when I was 3 and a bit in 1978. I started performing with my dad as Flap the Clown. And that was all about making people laugh, and there's certain tricks in comedy and certain rituals and structures that once you learn them and understand them, generally speaking, the majority of the time, the majority of people will react in the way you want them to, which obviously in a comedic sense is to laugh at the right time. There are certain structures. So from an early age, I was learning that everything kind of had an underpinning structure. And as I grew up and I rebelled against my dad because I found that I was getting bullied for being a circus clown and the odd one out, I turned into I started doing magic. By magic, I don't mean devil worshipping or anything like that. I mean MAGIC, magic, not magic with a K. The sort of stuff you see David Copperfield, the American illusionist, do, vanishing the Statue of Liberty, or Dynamo, who's quite well known worldwide, doing card tricks and stuff, that kind of magic. Because I was still performing, so I was getting applause from an audience that made me feel good and worthwhile, and it was good for my self-esteem. But it was rebelling against what my dad had got me to do, which I blamed as being the cause of the bullying I was getting. So it was avoiding that, but still getting the applause and the appreciation that I wanted. But I learned that magic tricks, again, have a structure. It's about making people believe something's happening when it's not, or making them believe something's not happening when it is, so that what they perceive as reality is actually very different than what's going on. And then as I grew up, I was still getting bullied because I was still the odd one out, because I was performing and stuff. And I saw in the library, certainly in England at least, the self-help books, personal development books, are kept on the shelves next to the magic books. And I saw a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And I thought, that's it. If I get that book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, I read that, study it, put it into action, then the people won't bully me anymore for being the odd one out, because why would you bully your friends? I got the book, I read it, and I discovered that whilst it may work, a lot of the context with adults, it didn't work with kids at school, unfortunately. So what I did also notice, Lord, there were books on hypnotherapy on the same shelf. And I thought, well, if I can't change the external factors that are causing me to inwardly start to feel depressed and upset and withdrawn and stuff, if I can't change them, the only other option is I've got to change how I react to what's being thrown at me. There's only two ways of changing things in life. Either change the cause, your environment, or change the way you react to the things that are happening in that environment. And I tried to change the environment, but I couldn't because I was still at the same school. I was still encountering the same bullies and they were still bullying me. So I had no other choice but to change the way that I reacted to those things. And that's when I learned something that I'm going to say that I think controversially within the past couple of weeks, the world famous personal development guru, Anthony Robbins, has got into a lot of hot water for at one of his seminars, saying that a lot of people that are using the hashtag Me Too for this Me Too movement of people that have experienced sexual assault and worse, that a lot of them are stuck in victim mentalities, he said. And this caused the audience to revolt on him at one of his recent events. And he wouldn't back down. He didn't apologise. He stood his ground, which I've got a lot of respect for, in the sense that he clarified that what he meant was, he wasn't saying that people using hashtag Me Too asked for it. He wasn't saying that. And he wasn't saying that they weren't victims at the time. What he was saying is that if something happened like 10 years ago and they are still identifying themselves by using the hashtag Me Too, that they're putting themselves still to this day and age in a victim mentality. So they're not actually helping themselves to move forward from that tragic circumstance that happened years ago. And he clarified this more, but it's been blown out of proportion a lot by some of the media, that he's, some uncaring sod that's spoken out. And I think, you know what? More power to him, because the truth is, if you allow yourself to be stuck in a victim mentality, I could have easily decided to keep labelling myself as the person who was bullied. I tried to change the environment. It didn't. If I'd done nothing to change my reaction to it, I would have remained a victim for life. The only way that was going to change is by me choosing to go, you know what? They can call me the gingerhead nutter. They can call me the son of a circus clown. They can call me the odd one out. They can even hit me. Yes, I will get a bruise, the bruise will heal. And you know that old saying, sticks and stones will break your bones, but names will never hurt me. Well, that's absolute rubbish. I learned that, names, psychological trauma can have a far bigger impact and a longer standing impact on people than actual physical abuse.
Yes.
Yeah, I can sense looking, because the viewers can't see us because they can only hear us. But I can actually see Keith, and I can sense that he go on, there's something on the tip of your tongue. I know there is.
No, I'm just listening. I'm enjoying what you're saying, because
okay, because it looks like that, because you've obviously had experiences. In life.
I've had similar experiences, and I've had a lot of bad done to me, and I know that the listeners, many of them, all have had the same things done to them, and it really is important that they don't hold on to, as you're saying, they mustn't hold on to all that hurt. They have to find a way to release it, because it causes sickness in the body, doesn't it? Because it's all stored in the body, all of that hurt, and that's stress. Where we get all of our diseases, and the worst one being cancer, which is manifested by all of that stress that builds up in the body. So if you want to make sure that you don't get cancer, then we need to start learning ways to release all of that pain from the past. Don't carry it with you anymore. Find a way to release it, and a good way to do it is to go to your friendly local hypnotist. Either myself or Jonathan.
That's very, very, very true. That's certainly one way. You know what? Everyone listening to this, you're fully capable of actually releasing all that negative stuff yourself. It's just that for a lot of you, no doubt, you probably find that difficult to believe right now, because you've gone through so many circumstances of life that have compounded upon each other that you probably think, I could never just change that myself. And that's where someone like Keith or myself or another professional in your location could really help you to cut those ties in a way that I relate to. I've just had a quick mental block. Her name will come back to me in a moment. She wrote, Louise
Yes.
Hay, you can heal your life. And in that, she said that something that might seem far away, i.e., the idea of being able to leave all that baggage behind in the past, the FAR is the word to remember because it's FAR and it stands for frustration, anger, resentment. And the way to turn it around is through forgiveness, acceptance, and then the letter R stands for two things: realization that you can change things, and a release of that that's been holding you back.
Mm-hmm.
And those situations that took place in your life years ago, it may have just been somebody physically hit you, and it could have all been over and done with in literally a matter of seconds, but it was so traumatic at the time that it's been there for years. And each time you re-examine it in your mind, you're actually adding fuel to it so it becomes more powerful. It might have been something that somebody said at school, a teacher who said, "Oh, you'll never get far in life," and it stuck in your head. And your internal voice reminds you of this. And when you're trying to achieve something in life, you just hear that little voice. It can be something as simple as that can really negatively impact people's lives. And by the same token, it can be as simple as saying to yourself, "You know what? I've had enough of this. All those people that said those things to me, I don't even, more often than not, you're not even encountering them anymore. The people may not be alive, or you're not going to the school, so you don't see the teacher. So why should you have to carry that around?" So just go, you could say F them, the swear word version of F them, or forgive them. Either way, you've just got to push it away mentally, or in fact physically imagine pushing it away. And if you physically make that movement as you mentally think of those things you want to push away, and then choose to go, I accept myself as I am now. The past is the past. There's nothing you can do right now. Nothing. None of us can do anything right now to alter what we've thought in the past, what we felt in the past, because the past is gone.
The important thing you said there was forgiveness, and there is I won't go into it too much, and each one of us who's listening could look up the Ho'oponopono, which is a prayer that I'm sure you know, don't you? And the Ho'oponopono prayer is a four-line prayer which is all about forgiveness, and I use that a lot, and it's very powerful. And that's the prayer is, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And it's all about forgiveness and letting go. And I remember when I was at school, there was a teacher, and he was a very fierce disciplinarian. He was our history master, and he ruled by the cane in the days when that was allowed. He used to cane everybody, and I never passed my history test, so I was in detention for 4 years. And I was terrified of that man. And eventually I got kicked out of school by him when I was 14 years old, which put the end to my career, as I wanted to be an architect. But I was not able to become an architect because he kicked me out of school because when I was at school I had epilepsy. And he said to me, "You'll never amount to anything, Taylor, because you're epilepsy, you're not going to go anywhere." So he engineered me being kicked out of school. So I hated him for that. And I bore that grudge for many, many, many years. And 30 years later, he died. And I went to his funeral. And I bore this grudge for all those years. But I went to his funeral, and all the teachers were there. And although he was fierce, he was a very well respected man. And I hated him because he kicked me out of school. And I went to his funeral, and at the funeral, everybody was there. And the pastor said that the families asked if anybody would like to come forward and say some words on behalf of him. And I thought that all of his colleagues would rush forwards and his family would rush forwards. And nobody came forward to say anything. And I thought that was terrible, that nobody went. So I thought somebody's got to say something. So I went to the front to say something. And I'm thinking that I hate this man, but I went forwards anyway to say something, and all I said was positive things about him, because I knew that there were people there who were mourning for him, people who loved and respected him. So I went to the front and I said nothing but positive things about him and all the things I thought that the mother and the sister and the teachers would want to hear about him. So in that moment, I forgave him for all the hurt he caused me, and I let it all go. And I felt a weight going off of my shoulders. And I probably imagined it, but I almost felt that he was shaking my hand and saying goodbye, and his spirit left at that moment. Well, I'm sure I probably imagined it.
Well, that's down to people's personal beliefs, but whether you imagine, what's the difference between imagination and reality? There's a very fine line. For something to be what the mass populace call reality, it's got to be in the imagination in the first place. Every invention started as an idea.
Yes, so, but you have to just revisit these hurts and just let them go, and just forgive the people that caused you that hurt. You don't have to say it to their face. You just go back there.
You can just imagine it in your head.
Mind, because, and this is one of the important things about the Ho'oponopono. You take personal responsibility for everything, because nothing out there exists except in here. And this is the philosophy of the Ho'oponopono. You create everything in here, so you forgive everything in here, and you say that good or bad, you created it in here, and you just forgive it and let it go, and then the healing happens in here, and you protect your body then, and you can heal your body just with the power of thought. And that, my friend, is a fact.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you, because I totally 1,000,000% agree with you, and it's my experience from doing what we do as hypnotherapist, or whatever title you want to give it, because it doesn't matter whether it
doesn't exist, does it? Hypnotherapy, and that's something I hear you say a lot, and I agree with you.
It's whatever title you want to give it. At the end of the day, if there's an intention there to help people, to help themselves, it doesn't matter what you call it, as long as that intention's there and it's positive. Yeah. And the people listening might think, wow, it seems so simple. If it was that simple, why are so many people out there full of hurt and regret and anger and stuff? And the truth is, because conventional medical medicine, doctors and stuff. I mean, don't get me wrong, I am generalising slightly here, because I do know there's some medical GPs out there of the conventional sense who sincerely wish they could spend more time with people on a one-to-one basis and help feed their mind, as it were, rather than just be one of those people who's indoctrinated into giving prescriptions and drugging people up and making money for drugs companies. So I do accept there are some medical GPs out there who what I'd say are good eggs. But then there's a lot out there that probably think they're good eggs because they're doing what they were taught by the medical school. And the medical schools are run and funded generally by governments and politicians, the people who are in power, or at least the people we see publicly in power. There's money men behind them. And it's all about controlling the masses. So the reason why so many people are walking around with hurts, regrets, frustrations and stuff is because they may have addressed it and got labelled as being depressed or manic depressed or bipolar, or their mood swings might have got them labelled as having a split personality disorder, or one of thousands of other made up, and yes, I've just said made up, because for people who don't know, psychiatrists and doctors and conventional medical types use a thing called DSM, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders and Diseases. And you would think that because there's this apparent Bible that they look at, that it's got importance and that therefore it's there to help people. Unfortunately, when you look deeper, you discover that lots of rogue, and I say rogue as in positive rogue psychiatrists, more and more over the years have come out and said that it's just voted on by a committee. And if you look at the first edition, it was only about 67 pages. The latest one's like a bloody thick encyclopedia, 600 odd pages. Each year they've added more and more labels so that they can justify prescribing more and more drugs because they get backhanders and payments from drug companies. Now, that sounds a bit conspiracy theorist, I know. But if you read the book, The Emperor's New Drugs by Irving Kirsch, which is Irving, Irving, and then Kirsch, Kirsch, and the book's called The Emperor's New Drugs. He examines the antidepressant drugs and discovers that they basically are no better than the placebo, the sugar pill. And in fact, he goes deeper and he exposes the fact that most of the clinical studies implying they have any worth, the numbers have been fudged and manipulated. In other words, out and out fraud to mislead the federal drug authorities to license the drug so that they can be prescribed and everyone can make money out of them. They actually don't. They do more harm than good, the majority of drugs out there. And the majority of drugs, when you look deeply, whether it's for depression, multiple personality disorders, or any other of the fancy labels that DSM and these so-called experts in power have come up with, in truth, they're no better than a placebo. And quite often, any chemical effect there is one of side effects and negative dependency. They don't want people to be free. They want people to be mind-controlled zombies almost. And I know, as we were talking before, you've seen from the inside that this isn't a conspiracy theory. If I say that, I'll just say this sentence, and then we're going to ask Keith his view on this. But this is going to upset some people, so I apologise in advance. And I'm not saying that this document I'm about to mention has any truth or validity in it, except that which the test of history has proven to be true. So I'm saying up front that the document I'm about to mention may well be, and probably is, a forgery, a manufactured thing to cause people to have arguments and rows and wars with each other. Okay? But there is a document you can get on the internet that was published in 1903 called The Protocols of the Elders of Zion, which was interpreted by a gentleman called Sergei Nilus, Sergei is his first name, and Nilus his second name, Nilus. But if you search the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, 1903, you will find this document interpreted by Sergei Nilus. Now, they say that this document never existed because it's an alleged document, a plan for Jewish global domination. Now, I'm making this very clear. I personally have nothing against anyone who is of Jewish heritage. In fact, I am related quite closely to Lord Sugar. Lord Sugar, but not as in, some people in England will be thinking, oh, The Apprentice. Well, actually, Lord Sugar as in a lord in the British government who presents the British show The Apprentice, is also related to Lord Sugar as in religious lord. It's a long story. The point is, we're linked. I don't know how many distant cousins removed, but that part's irrelevant. The point is, from a family link point of view, I absolutely detest anyone who is unnecessarily negative towards Jewish people. But by the same token, I absolutely detest anyone who's unnecessarily negative, racist, religionist, ageist, sexist, or anything about anybody, because at the end of the day, we're all human beings. But in the context of this, to make people think more open-mindedly, the key here is to ask questions. What we have to look at is, even if the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, this document from 1903, is a complete forgery that was manufactured to cause people to argue with each other and be at each other's throats, which it probably was, what is a weird coincidence is this. If you look at the document that was, at the very least, released in 1903, and what it said would happen in the world, that's the bit that's strange, because what it said would happen in the world, certain places will go to war against each other. The mass populace will be led to believe certain things. There will come a time down the line where fear, false evidence against reality, trauma-based mind control will creep into controlling the public, and there's what we call false flag operations. Now, some people believe 9/11 was an inside job, other people believe that it was just a tragic terrorist event. But either way, if it was an inside job, it was to control the populace through fear. If it was a terrorist event, then you just look at who funds the terrorists behind the scenes and who sells them arms and the ability to do these things, and it traces back to the people in power that people are brainwashed to respect and hand their security over to, as it were. The controlling the mass populace through fear. And this plan to do that was laid out in this document, the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, in 1903. Then in 1913, here in England, there was a place set up called Wellington House. It was a military propaganda arm to create false news, basically, to scare the other side, to help them win wars. This in 1920, through the help of Dr. Hugh Critchin, his second name being spelled Crichton, who was a specialist in shell shock, as it was called at the time, or as it's now been relabeled, post-traumatic stress disorder. In other words, he was an expert of fear, helping people overcome it, but also imposing it for the brainwashing of people. He helped change Wellington House in 1920 into the Tavistock Clinic. Now, then in 1946, thanks to funding from the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Carnegies, the British Home Office, and a load of anonymous donators as well, this turned from the Tavistock Clinic into the Tavistock Institute of Human Relations. And interestingly, that still exists, the Tavistock Institute of Human Relations. And right now in 2018, in Making World News, is a company that was called Cambridge Analytica. And it's been exposed that Cambridge Analytica had links to the Tavistock Institute of Human Relations. It's recently, in recent days, been shown that Facebook, the social media platform, have had to admit that stuff was harvested from them via Cambridge Analytica and their associates. But if you look deeper, there's potential evidence to suggest that maybe Facebook knew more than they were letting on, because when you go deep, there's a lot of people say that Facebook as a social media platform of apparent freedom was actually set up to control the masses, because one of the big funders, allegedly, when it was started, was CIA linked. And all of these have one thing in common: Wellington House, Tavistock Clinic, Tavistock Institute, Cambridge Analytica having links to them. They all arguably link back to MK Ultra and other government-funded mind control programs to control the mass populace, which sounds like a conspiracy theory to a lot of people out there, because it will scare them to think that maybe their choices is not as free as they think they are, to think that maybe they are being controlled by what they see on television, what they read in the media, because the media is run by people who lie, can be scary for a lot of people. But when you actually realise it and consciously become aware of it, you can then far easier protect yourself from that brainwashing. And this is where I'm going to ask you to comment, Keith, because I know you have first-hand insider.
Well, it's funny it's as if we're in sync with each other, because, as you were saying, I was thinking that was precisely the reason I got rid of my television 17 years ago, because I understand, and partly because I am an ex-electronic engineer, and I have worked for the government in the MOD as an engineer. That's one of the reasons I got rid of my television, and one of the reasons why I've never used a mobile device, a mobile phone, because I understand the mind control technology that they use. And this is why I don't have a television and won't have a television, because they are used to control your mind. It's not by accident. It's not by accident the way a television works. The refresh rate of a television screen, the frequency that is used is a deliberately chosen one. It's not randomly chosen. It's deliberately chosen to work in synchronicity with the frequencies of the brain to dumb you down and control the mind.
To put you into an alpha state of mind, which is the same as hypnosis, yeah.
And television itself was designed by the Nazis to be able to control the minds. The Gestapo, the Nazi Party, wanted to be able to deliver propaganda directly into the homes, and that was the sole purpose of television. It wasn't designed to deliver entertainment. It was designed to deliver propaganda directly into the home, and they designed it purposefully with the refresh rate to deliver the propaganda in the most effective way directly into the brain. And they wanted to design in a way to adjust the alpha rate of the alpha waves of the brain so that it would bypass the critical faculty directly into the unconscious brain without us realizing. And it's been very effective, and it gets more and more effective all the time. And the people don't know it's happening, and it's frightening, which is why I haven't got one.
Oh, it's very frightening. And if those people who might think this sounds a bit science fiction, you know, television, I know from my own research, but I would say to people listening, search the internet, go out there, look into this and prove to yourself. Try and disprove what Keith's just said, and you'll unfortunately find that it's even truer and the rabbit hole's even deeper than what he's just said. I mean, in recent years, if you search US patent number 6506148, that's US patent number 6506148. It is a patent for a nervous system manipulation by electromagnetic fields from monitors and television screens. It was filed on the 1st of June 2001, and it lays out beyond the original intention of television, which is used to hypnotize you and arguably then subliminally program you. They're now, you know, they are now capable of literally causing arguably human nervous system changes, which therefore could arguably, debatably lead to organic illness and change.
And death.
Which may sound science fiction, but if you search depopulation or population control, you'll see the phrase collateral damage come up a lot. People talk about false flags and say, well, this person claims that was a false flag terrorist attack. That means they're saying nobody died. No. The people who say nobody died, they're the idiots. They're the people that give conspiracy theorists a bad name. No one who researches false flags properly would say that people didn't die. It's worse than that. What it is that people do die. Innocent people get killed by the powers that be that allow it to happen to give the public the perception that terrorism's happening so they can control them through fear and trauma-based mind control. So it's actually worse than that they allow innocent people to die. But there again, you know, I think pretty much any war, when you look at it, is innocent people dying, because there's no real reason for any war to have ever taken place other than for control and financial gain of some people and for control and manipulation of the masses, unfortunately. So
yes, I always think that you can see that minds are controlled when you consider that the ordinary public walk into weapons factories every day and create weapons that the government then uses to kill the people that made them.
Yeah, it just the mind. Is it any the person regarded as being the father of public relations? This guy called Edward Bernays. Yeah.
Yes.
Is it any surprise that he was connected to the inception, the startup of Wellington House that led to the Tavistock Clinic, that led to the Tavistock Institute of Human Relations, that brings us full circle to now in 2018, where it's becoming public knowledge that Cambridge Analytica's linked to them and was harvesting information to control the masses, to make people vote for something that other people wanted them to. However you look at it, that's mind control.
Yes.
Is it just a pure coincidence that he was related to Sigmund Freud?
And he was the man who made cigarette smoking sexy. I'm not saying it is sexy, but if it is, he was the man that made it so.
Which you could say arguably helped in regards to, well, made money through taxes in England, but also could contribute to the population control agenda.
Yeah.
It's sort of, I'm just going to throw in a couple of things of mind control. People go, wow, is this really happening? It sounds science fiction. For those people who want to research more, research MK Ultra. Research the Tavistock Institute of Human Relations. Research DARPA, DARPA, DARPA mind control. This is the use of radio signal waves directed at the brain to make people do things they wouldn't do or to think things.
Yeah.
There's been studies done that show that Wi-Fi can have an effect on the way people think. I don't mean the results they see on their screen through looking on the internet. I mean the actual invisible ether Wi-Fi that you're using to connect to the internet can change the way you think. There's, you know,
and if you really want to do some research, start researching 5G. Don't be suckered into thinking that you must get your 5G phone. It's lethal, 5G, because it changes your DNA. They are millimeter waves, and you will not be able to escape when they turn them on. They are deadly.
And even if they weren't, and I agree with you, my research shows the same, but let's, I encourage people not to accept what we say, but to go and question it and find out for themselves. But even at 4G level or lower than that, there's the bigger thing that at the end of the day, David Icke talks about this in his book, The Biggest Secret, that was published in 1991. And interestingly, I always say to people, if you think conspiracy theorists are mad and that David Icke's just about apparently the Queen being a reptile, which I don't believe is actually what he means. I believe he's using a metaphor of the reptilian area of the human brain as being linked to narcissistic and psycho type behavior, which it is. But if you look at his book, get a copy of the first edition so that you know he hasn't amended it since, and you'll see loads of the stuff he laid out in 1991 is now in the public domain and proven to be true. And one that's scaringly becoming true is that more and more people have got mobile phones. Now I do because it's relevant to my business, but I try to use it as little as possible because what this is, forget the Wi-Fi stuff for the moment and the radiation that can come off it, but it's getting people used to carrying around a device. In the Bible, I'm not religious in the slightest. I believe it's a code book of parables and metaphors. But one of them is that one day they will carry the mark of the beast. And I believe the mark of the beast is that people will be carrying electronic devices that consciously have them focused on checking their social media to make them have a feeling of self-worth. Are people like my post enough? And let's see if someone else has commented on it to make them feel a sense of worth inside. So they get addicted to this device, meaning that they're walking around hypnotized and they're ignoring the bigger world of what's going on. It's going on around them. And the next step from that is to get people so comfortable with carrying these that they get to the point that they go, you know what, I wish I didn't have to carry it because I could be doing other stuff as well, so that they will voluntarily accept the idea of having stuff implanted into them. RFID chips, research them. RFID, implantable, injectable, smaller than the grain of rice, can be injected into you. And they can, through remote control, track what you're doing, alter the way you think. That as well has been shown. Or they can make you healthy if they wanted, or they can make you smarter or dumber. Look into it. It's scary. They're steering towards people voluntarily wanting these because they're so used to carrying around devices now. That the next step is, that then they started making the watches. The next step will be fingering, God knows, who knows. They're getting people used now to trying to get them into a cashless society. So there's no control, so that they can pay with their phone if you've got the app on there, or you can just tap your plastic credit card and pay, so that you no longer got that perceived security of real money. But you never had a security with real money anyway, because that was an illusion, because there's not enough gold in the world to secure the apparent I promise to pay the bearer on demand. That amount in gold. Search the illusion of money on YouTube. Look at the bigger picture. The biggest message I want people to take away today is don't accept anything at face value. Don't accept stuff that sounds logical as well. That sounds logical. Loads of people say it's true, so it must be true. And that doesn't matter if it's what the mass populace thinks or it's what gets labelled as conspiracy theory. From either end of the scale, don't accept it blindly. Research, ask yourself questions. Ask yourself, does anyone have anything to gain from me believing that? Follow who stands to gain through control or money or both. And then decide for yourself based on researching, not just through conventional media that obviously is owned by the elite billionaires who are controlled by the real money people, the bankers and whatnot. Look at the alternative media as well, but not just one. Look at several. If you start to see patterns, then possibly, and I'm not saying definitely, I'm saying possibly, that's something you should examine more closely. In other words, question everything. You know?
This is Rula. Quite interesting discussion you guys are having. And for the most part, I understand some of the things you're saying, not all of it. But this last point you're making, you have to have a suspicious mind for most things. But you say go and research it. Today, most people tend to go on Google and type in something and say they've researched it. But when you type a specific item, there are multiple entrants that comes up. For you to go and read all of those things, many of them have conflicting inputs and thoughts. Where do you draw? Where do you say, yes, I've now understood this is the answer I'm looking for? Because it's tricky.
It is tricky, and yeah, the internet is the world's biggest library, albeit that it is controlled to some degree. But, you know, I would say as a general rule of thumb, just try and find 4 or 5 different points of view. Mm-hmm. And I say try to find 4 or 5 different points of view. On a lot of these things, you'll only find really 2 clear, distinct points of view. That which the people in power want the mass populace to believe, and the direct opposite. And sometimes you'll find a grey area in between. But by trying to find 4 or 5 different points of view will make it clearer those several different points of view will jump out. And you will just feel it. This is what people don't do enough of. Because people don't ask enough questions about things, they've forgotten to listen to themselves. There will come a point that you're looking. It might have taken you 10 minutes. It might have taken you half an hour. But you'll just suddenly feel that something feels right. It's about learning to trust your gut feeling again, your instinct. And when you know something just feels right, if it feels right for you, then even if it isn't totally true, as long as it's not physically, psychologically, morally, or spiritually going to harm anyone else, then if it feels right for you, go with it. Because it will make you feel better. And if you feel better, you'll be more relaxed. If you're more relaxed, you'll be less stressed in life. And if you're less stressed, you'll be escaping what the people of power want, this world of fear, confusion and stress. And you'll be more relaxed and happy and calm and all the good things that means ultimately you'll be more healthy. What would you say, Keith?
Yes, indeed. You have to research these things, and then if you're aware of what's going on around you, you'll have no reason to be afraid, will you? You have to be aware, be informed, and then you have no reason to be afraid. If you don't know what's going on, then that's when you're afraid, isn't it? Because people who don't know what's happening are always the ones that are afraid, aren't they? It's the not knowing that causes the fear, isn't it?
Fear, F-E-A-R, which more often than not is false evidence against reality, or false evidence appearing real, or as the old saying goes, there's no fear except fear itself, because that is the biggest fear.
Yeah.
There's the idea of possibly ending up being scared by something. But then when it actually happens, it's never as bad as the fear that was being generated that led up to that occurrence.
Or as I sometimes say, when things get too much, I just say, just forget everything and run.
And sometimes you need to physically do that.
Little joke.
It may be a joke, but you know what? I see that there is so much truth in that saying as well. Albeit that maybe sometimes mentally you've got to say, look, sod this. People going, oh, you know, quitters never win in life. But you know what? Some things in life you need to quit spending too much energy or focus on, because it's those things that actually are holding you back.
Yes. We before we run out of time, would you like to tell us your website?
Yeah, indeed. If people would like to look into more about the mind, as it were, then there's a lot of free resources, free videos, free books you can download, and a whole bunch of other free stuff at hypnosisweek.com, which is HYPNOSISWEEK, hypnosisweek.com, or my online store is at magicalguru.co.uk, which is magicalguru.co.uk. Thank you for having us, Rula. Thank you, Keith, for inviting me on. Thanks, everyone, for listening.
Yes, indeed.
The big key message is question everything.
Question everything. Okay.
Learn to have faith in yourself. When you have that gut instinct feeling that something feels right, trust it. When you have that gut instinct feeling, and you'll have had experiences in the past where you go, you know, I wish I'd just trusted that gut feeling I had. Well, learn to trust yourself, because at an unconscious, silent level, those feelings of this is right or this is wrong tend to be right.
Now, one quick question with that gut feeling, because I believe in that also. I really operate most of the time with that notion. But can your gut feeling, the initial gut feeling, be wrong? And if so, when would you tend to want to question it? You know, you get a gut feeling about something, whatever it is. But for some reason, something else is tugging against you. Say, you know something, there's an alternate. Should you always go with that gut feeling? I guess that's a question I have.
My belief, there's always going to be times where anything on this planet is going to turn out differently than anticipated. But I believe that your gut feeling, 99.9% of the time recurring, will turn out to be right. And that little thought that enters your head and goes, maybe should I question this, comes in after you've had that gut feeling. And that is that element of doubt, that internal voice. Unfortunately, that at a conscious level tends to come from the programs that the powers that be put into us through television, through the mainstream media, through the so-called education, or as I prefer to call it, indoctrination system of what they want you to believe. That's where elements of doubt come from. Gut feelings are your spiritual inner you. And in my experience, I'd say the vast majority of the time are right.
Keith?
Yeah, I just little tip for you here. We're talking about medicine earlier on, and I've been reading lately a book by Dr. Batman Geheldi, which is BATMANGHELIDJ, and this is The Healing Power of Water.
Oh yes.
And I use water, and it has healed me. And this was even before I read his book. It's healing. He's recommending that we drink, and I've been doing this even before I read it. He's recommending that we drink 4 quarts of water a day. That's 8 pints, and that's a lot more water than any of you have been drinking. I know that because a lot of people are thinking that we should drink 8 glasses of water a day.
Be sure you don't just do it from the tap, though. It's definitely not if you're in England or anywhere that adds fluoride to the water.
8 pints of water a day, he's recommending. And that is a lot. That's a gallon. That's a lot of water. But that's what he recommends instead of all of these drugs that we're taking, because we're all dehydrated. So don't wait until you feel thirsty. If you're thirsty, it's too late. but you should be drinking 4 quarts of water a day. That's 8 pints.
No.
That's a lot of water.
No, Keith, back
But
to the
that's
same
recommended in his book.
back to the same point I made earlier. When you hear a statement like that, you're gonna have to go ahead and do your research and try to get a feeling. What is the right number? So you read some of these things. Yeah, go ahead.
The number will be different for everyone. Yeah, things have to be generalised. But I think the key message that the guy who wrote that book is saying is that nobody tends to. The majority of people don't tend to have enough water intake. And that they need to take in more water so that they're not just drinking when they're dehydrated. So that therefore you've got more chance of flushing negative toxins out of the body, which is going to be beneficial for your health. Plus you're not going to be dehydrated, which is a negative thing anyway. So yeah, everyone's going to be different, but you're going to notice if you drink more water, pure, clear water, not fluorinated water.
You read my mind. Yeah.
Then
must be water.
Yeah, it must be clear, not stuff added to it, and not fluorinated water from a tap. Pure, clear. As long as you end up drinking more, you'll know. 8 pints of it a day for a lot of people might actually be too much. It is actually possible to drown yourself as well. Go the other way too.
I was just about to make that point. The rule of thumb I've heard is that
but if you
should try to drink.
If you start feeling bad, that's the clue.
That's the clue.
The clue is you've had too much.
I've heard now.
I've heard 1 ounce per pound of your body mass, or your body weight.
That's what I do.
Right.
It's 1 ounce per pound.
Right.
You may have heard that from me, Rula, because when I was doing my water fast, I started doing that 1 ounce per pound of body weight.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And don't forget, it depends on your diet as well, because there's a lot of water goes into the body through foods that you eat as well, and that can have to the total kind of amount of water the body's getting. That will have a contributory element as well.
Well, he covers that in his book. He says that you do get water from the food, but you have to physically drink water. It's water that you drink that's important. You must physically drink water. It's not water that's in food. It's not water that's in coffee or soda or anything like that. It's pure water that he's talking about that you must get into you.
A way to sum it up would be this, I think, because everyone's going to be different and people will you've got to generalise, but to kind of generalise in a more specific sense, I think we could sum it up by this. If you return to nature and do things that are natural and eat and drink things that nature would naturally have provided in the form that nature would have provided them, so there's no added chemicals. In the case of water, it's not been added into soda or fizzy drinks. As nature would have intended, pure, unpolluted water, then you are far more likely to get a natural result in the body. Same with food. If you eat food that is natural, as nature would have provided it, rather than it being having sprayed with chemicals and pesticides and all this, then you're more likely to have a natural, healthy result, rather than, as evidence seems to show, too much processed food can lead to things like cancer, contribute towards it. So return to nature in what you eat, return to nature in what you drink, would be the way I'd sum it up.
If anybody wants this information about water, by the way, you can get it from naturalnews.com.
All right, I tell you what, we run out of time. It's 35 after. Again, I want to thank both of you gentlemen for quite an interesting conversation today. And hopefully, listeners out there, if you'd like to go to the website, again, could you please repeat? I know one of them is Hypnosis Week.
Hypnosisweek.com, and the other one is magicalguru.co.uk.
Okay, great. Get that co.uk. All right, Keith, your final thoughts. I know, Keith, you have folks who would like to reach out to you. Where can they touch base with you?
Yes, thanks very much, Rula, for allowing us to be on here. It's been great to have you, Jonathan. Really enjoyed the.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Interesting chat. We could have gone on for hours, but Rula won't let us.
No, the time.
And he's always mean
The
like
clock,
that.
the clock won't let you.
The construct of time is against us.
Exactly.
Yes. It's not fair. It's not fair. We're having so much fun.
Not at all.
But you can contact me anytime. Anybody who wants help with hypnosis or therapy, or just a chat, I'm always willing to do it. You can contact me at hypnosensi.com or hypnosensei.co.uk, or on Facebook at facebook.com/hypnosensei. So in each case, that's HYPNOSENSEI. So that's hypnosensei.com, hypnosensei.co.uk, or facebook.com hypnosensei. And I look forward to your call. Thanks very much, Rula. Thanks very, very much, Jonathan.
Thank you, Keith, and thank you, Rula, and thanks for everyone for.
Yes, Mr. Yes, is it Jonathan? Is it Jonathan? What did Keith have on Facebook? Is it Jonathan?
My name by birth is Alex Williams.
Alex,
so
that's the one.
Find me on Facebook. I'm facebook.com/Alex the Hypnotist under the name Alex Williams Smith. But that's because that's my birth name, so family can find me as well. Professionally, I go by the name Jonathan Royle, because it sounds better, and also, if you believe in such things, it has a higher numerological vibration.
One day you should come in, the next talk you should come in and talk about numerological vibration and the birth signs and so forth. That'll be an interesting topic for the listeners.
Well, we could do that at some point in the future, maybe. Yeah, sacred geometry and mathematics, I suspect, is something that Keith will already be aware of.
Yeah.
Pythagoras theorem. Yes, Keith.
Would you like Alex back sometime, Rula?
Keith, I've always said to you, it's your show. You're the one who actually sets your schedule. So whoever you bring on is fine with me. Alex has. I'm sure when he comes next time, he's going to engage the folks to a level where they're going to say, "Wow, I did not know that."
Listeners, message Rula, message Keith especially. Let him know if you'd like us to go that next stage.
Yes.
And then we'll provide what you actually want, no doubt.
Indeed. All right, again, thank both of you gentlemen. Take care of yourself. And I've recorded this, and I apologize for not having the record. I did one record on cam, so I'll put that one up also. And I did do another one where the still images. What happened? I had taken off Skype off the main computer here, so I had to do a quick thing, and we'll sort that out. But you will see both of them up at some point today on YouTube and on Facebook, etc.
Excellent, and I'll share them around because, just want everyone to think.
Yes.
And tune in again to Keith's forthcoming shows because he's got loads of other great guests coming up.
And Jonathan, the key 3 bullet items: question everything, trust in yourself, and go with your gut instinct initially. Something like that, right?
Precisely.
All right, great.
Yes, indeed.
All right, indeed. Thank you all so much, and take care of yourselves.
Thank you very much.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Rula. Bye-bye
right.
for now. Bye.
Yeah, man. All right, folks. I want to thank both of the gentlemen for coming on and